to today's episode of Not So Daily Musings. I'm Allysia, your host, and I wanted to talk about just a really quick idea that I think is pretty powerful and something that I've been thinking about a little bit lately as it relates to something that you would be very naturally talented at, something that you would really enjoy doing as we talk about things that you're passionate about, things that you could possibly best contribute to the world. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm interested in. If I were to sit down and write a list, and I've actually done this before, it's a really fascinating process. How many things are you interested in, curious about, whatever? You have like 40, 50, 60 things. The thing is that being interested in something versus being adept or just sort of naturally gifted at something is a totally different ballpark. And I think what the difference is how obsessive you get about the details. So for most things that I'm interested in, I really am a generalist in most areas of life. I would rather know a little bit about a lot of topics than a lot about just a narrow range of topics. If I get interested in climate change, or if I get interested in human biology, or whatever it happens to be, I want to know the kind of the minimum amount that I need to know to live better, to just like kind of understand the core concepts, but maybe not at a level of detail that like a microbiologist would, or something like that, or a climate change scientist would understand. So even though you might have a lot of things you're interested in, and if you're exploring the idea of what am I passionate about, what do I want to pursue, maybe you're thinking about what career you want to do, or you're thinking about a career change, or just like what hobby to pick up, or whatever it happens to be, pursuing an interest is great. But if you're thinking about like what am I really going to be like burning with passion about doing, it's really about the details. It's all in the details. And when I think about this in my own life, and I think about the things that I get obsessive about the details over, it's virtually nothing, because that's just not my way of approaching the world, which can be very confusing to have so many interests, but not a lot of aptitude on a kind of obsessive detail level. One thing that I think of when I talk about this is Josh Waitzkin's book, The Art of Learning, and there's a perfect example of getting really obsessed with details. Like the way he discusses chess and the nuance of chess is mind-boggling. It's very inspiring and a little bit superhuman. It's a little bit scary. So I'm not like that with almost anything, except for one thing, actually. And one thing, and it's not piano, actually, surprisingly enough. I feel like I can get obsessive about details with piano by brute force. So I've spent a long time playing piano, and I've spent a lot of time practicing. I've prepped for exams, I've done all kinds of things. I've taught piano, so I'm very trained to detail and nuance, but I'm not naturally obsessed with the details of piano in the way that someone who would be like a masterful performer would be, which is why I'm never going to be a masterful performer at the piano. I think I can settle with being like quite good, but not like, legendary good or something like that. There's a lot of piano players on YouTube who are phenomenal players, and they clearly love and obsess over the details. Now, it's not that I don't love the details of piano, but it doesn't come as naturally to me as something else. I can force myself to do it, but forcing yourself to be detail-oriented is not the same thing as loving the details and naturally, curiously throwing yourself into the details. And the thing that I do that with is singing. And maybe in some aspects, another thing that I get obsessive about details on is not just vocal delivery and performance, but also creating melodies. Because this is something that I feel like it's virtually no effort to me to, I shouldn't say that, but it's a very pleasurable experience to push myself to peak capacity and a little bit beyond what I think I'm capable of, and always push myself a little bit further, and always reach for more nuance, and always reach for a little bit more like detail. It's not a brute force labor of love. It's something that I just do because there's a love behind that. So the love for singing creates this obsessive focus on details. Now, it's very important to note that you can love singing and not have a knack for sorting out the details of singing. And that's fine. That's like a general interest. So I might have I might love reading about climate change, but that doesn't mean I have a knack for like understanding or obsessing about the fine details of it. It's totally separate. It's like the next layer of your passion is that obsession for details. So just because you enjoy doing something, I don't think that's quite enough when you're considering, okay, what am I super passionate about? What am I really talented at naturally? It's not enough, I don't think, to think about just what you love doing, what you enjoy doing. I think those are very, very valid things. And if you love or enjoy doing something, you should definitely do it. But if you love singing, but you don't have a knack for the details of singing, you don't have that like kind of natural obsessiveness towards details of singing, then maybe it's not a good idea to throw all your chips in the basket of building a career on singing. Even though I find myself to naturally be obsessive about details in regards to singing and writing melodies, it like even I haven't thrown in all my chips in the arena of staking my career on singing. It's just something that I really love to do. Now, one thing you'll notice with the things that you get obsessed about is that your progress in this arena is inevitable and unstoppable. It's sort of like getting better at it is just gonna happen no matter what, almost without effort, even though it does take quite a significant amount of effort to get better at things. So for example, when I practice piano, and I practice piano really hard, it feels like, okay, I'm really working at this. I'm really putting everything I've got into these details. And it's challenging and it's difficult, and then I can make progress that way. With something like singing, as something that I'm just naturally more obsessive about, it feels like I can spend hours and hours and hours doing it, and I have, and I do. And working on like tiny little nuances, like the amount of times in a recording where I've spent an hour on like, just how do I emphasize these syllables is like countless. The amount of the amount of ease, I suppose that would be like one key point that I would look for to separate just the general love of something. So I love piano, but I really have to labor over the details versus an obsession with something where you love it and there's a sense of ease in regard to the details. And you can see this with people in all walks of life, people who just seem to pick something up and make it look easy and just do it on like a masterful level without a lot of effort. And by the way, I'm not saying that any of this applies to me in terms of singing. It's just the closest comparison I have for that level of obsession and ease. So one thing I would encourage you to think about, and just something to explore internally, is there something that you consider yourself, where you consider focusing on the details almost an effortless process? Or is there something that you love doing, but you really kind of have to brute force yourself to do it? And if there is something that you find that you gravitate towards and the details are very easy for you, at least maybe compared to your peers, but notice inside if there's a lot of internal resistance to it, because that's going to be a guide over whether you're just very naturally invested in the details versus you kind of have to force yourself to do the details. Is there some way that you can do more of this in your life? Because I think you're able to bring forth some of your biggest gifts and contributions to this world and to us and to me and everyone who can enjoy what you do, what you create, by focusing on those things that you get the most obsessed about, because I think that's where you're going to be able to contribute a massive amount of value, even if it's just a hobby, even if it's not your like career choice. So anyway, just something to think about, something I've been thinking about. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll catch you guys later.